Whoa, hey, I'm excited. Let's just go right around and just do introductions. Quincy, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, sure. I'm Quincy Larson, teacher and founder of freeCodeCamp.org, where you can learn math, programming, computer science, English. We've got a lot of other coursework up. We've got some Spanish learning resources as well. freeCodeCamp.org.
I love it. There is the banner, and Danny Thompson. Go ahead. Give us an introduction, sir.
I am the Director of Technology at This.Labs. We are solving some pretty incredible, interesting problems. And I am the community organizer for the Commit Your Code conference, literally happening in 30 days.
I love it. Certainly not last. Leon, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, sir?
Sure. My name is Leon. I'm Manager Director of Engineering for a wonderful nonprofit called Resilient Coders and teacher in a wonderful community called 100 Devs.
That being said, we're here to talk about just tech. It's such a polarizing topic, just talking about frameworks and technologies and where the industry's going and the job market. And it changes every couple months, the cycles. When I came up with the idea for this panel, I knew that I wanted to get people that everybody knew and everybody valued their opinions. We have some very big thought leaders here. And I said to them, whether they meant to be or not, they are here because of that. And I'm honored to have them here. I respect all of their opinions. And I'm very curious to see where they meet as far as opinions matching and where they don't. And I think that that's really where the conversation's going to go here. So I got this email response back from Quincy, and it says, sure thing, I'm down in regards to doing this. Also, my views on these tools have evolved quite a bit over the summer, from skepticism to seeing how quickly people have been building projects at hackathons using them. I want to know what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So over the summer, I was involved in a lot of hackathons, Hong Kong, Beijing, and I just saw people building stuff. There's not really trepidation or fear. People just like wholeheartedly have like embraced these tools. And is the quality going to be as high? Yeah, I think it can be as high.
Interesting. Danny, how do you feel about that? What's your take?
I almost want to pause my take to see what Leon says first, then I'll proceed with mine.
Story of my life.
I don't know if mine might be spicy.
So I think the reason why Danny said that too is because I've gone on this spiritual journey over the past, year or so. You talked to me in October of last year. I just fundamentally didn't get it. Every single time I tried, I felt like I was running into a brick wall, and all I got back was slop. Stuff that just made no rhyme or reason. And Danny was like, "You're out of your mind." He saw something that I didn't see, and I was trying. It wasn't like I was just messing around. Like I was really trying to integrate this into my workflow, and it just wasn't happening. And over the past year, that's completely changed. So I think I'm here for the journey, and I'm hoping we can talk about that like progression to it becoming more and more relevant in my day-to-day code, and the things that I think have changed recently that make that a little bit more realistic, and also maybe some of the downsides too that I see with folks that are integrating it maybe a little too early. Especially we have a lot of folks that are just learning. We have a lot of folks that might not be able to do kind of what Quincy was saying, be able to see whether or not the code that's being generated is good code or not, and all of the things that come with that.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Danny, where you landing here? You heard Leon.
AI will make you dumb. MIT has kind of proven this. And I think some people would forget that. I think your usage of AI should depend on what your goal really is. You've removed that from the equation now. So you lose that deep rabbit hole of education that you gain by going down that pathway. So if your goal is just to ship something, AI is one of the best tools that you could leverage and utilize. If the goal is to be educated on a subject and understand the ins and outs of it, leveraging any AI tool in any way, shape, or form is one of the worst things you could possibly do, unless you use it in the right way. A lot of people have been terrified of AI. I don't think AI is going to really displace as many people as people believe. I do believe displacement will happen. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be in the field of tech. If anything, more than anything, offshoring and nearshoring are much stronger opponents to the field of tech in the United States compared to AI. And knowing how to leverage it to accelerate your productivity and execution of a task is one of the best things that you can do. If you're a junior developer trying to get your first job in tech, you should be familiar with AI tooling, but you should not be familiar with it to the point where it's literally doing heavy load for you, because that is where you're losing everything. And the thing that matters most is not the project that you make, even though it's important, don't get me wrong. It's the way you can package and deliver that project in a conversation, not in deployment, but in a conversation. And that's the thing that's going to help you in every single interview where you talk about your technical abilities.
100%.
Ooh. We did have a question here. I keep hearing people talking about domain expertise becoming one of the useful attributes, augmenting the use of AI tools in the changing landscape. Any thoughts on this?
So I mean, domain expertise, I think specific skills are good. But if you actually have what I call deep skills, like let's say you really understand chemistry really well, well, that's not something that you can really offload to an L, because you might be getting like the end kind of output of that. Oh, this chemical won't kill you if you consume it or something like that. But you won't necessarily understand the why part. And so there's domain expertise that is, I guess, defensible. And then there's domain expertise that is quickly kind of like diminished by the power of LLMs, which we'll see whether they continue to improve in this regard. So I just want to emphasize there are probably two different types of domain expertise.
Yeah, I mean, domain expertise, you're just developing a depth of knowledge in a particular area. It could be anything. You could be a biologist, a chemist. If we're offloading a lot of our coding and tools about chemistry, are you going to trust the results? And so there is going to be, for a long time, this human in the loop needed before AI can become more self-sufficient and self-reliant. And so that's where the domain expertise comes in. Yeah, you can use AI tools to go and mess with your database, but it might delete the database, right? That's happened pretty publicly to a couple of big people. So having domain expertise in databases and how they work and how they function, so you can be that human in the loop, probably is a good thing for now. And then over time, that expertise can deepen and give you more resiliency in your jobs and the ability to do things. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things. My mind wants to go in like two different directions on this one, but I'm trying to like find the happy middle ground. So in order to gain domain expertise into something, generally speaking, you got to do something within that domain. One example that I often give is pre-AI, which is like, how long ago was that? 2 years ago, dude. But pre-AI, what was one of the most common things that I would find people struggling with? Like, you could watch a video tutorial, but if you're not coding alongside of it, what happens? When it's time for you to finally code, you pause the video, you put your fingers on the keyboard, you look at the editor, and you freeze. Because seeing that thing happen, it's very easy to comprehend what an error-free path tutorial looks like. They've already solved all those problems. But when you start working on it yourself and you have to implement it, your mind is frozen. You don't know even where to start. Now that we're in the AI age, you can get that template built out for you. You can get all the boilerplate in the world that you would ever want. But now when you're trying to implement it, you don't have a clue what's going wrong. You don't know where there's an issue. But if you're in the situation where you're trying to get your first job in tech, you need to be familiar with the toolings, but you don't need to leverage it for things that aren't necessary. So again, going back to the statement that I made earlier, if your goal is to ship something as quickly as humanly possible, phenomenal use case. If the goal is for you to become a domain knowledge individual, you really need to go through the ins and outs, because domain knowledge and having expertise doesn't come from the broad strokes. It comes from the details. And when you make broad strokes, you miss the details.
Wow. It's a kind of a sobering statistic when you think about that. We've got a question. Since we're talking about the tools and like best practices here and sort of that precautionary tale of overusing them and not using your actual skills, what's the best way to use AI when you are learning?
I don't think you should use AI when you're learning programming for the most part. I think you should learn how to use AI to program after you already understand the programming fundamentals. So you could ask GPT or whatever tool you're using while you're programming, like, hey, I want to understand XYZ better. What are some good tutorials I could read from one of the many, many tutorial sites where they invariably have some thoughtful developer who's written an article and probably had an editor go through and edit it. And then you can get like the full package, the intentional teaching of another human being rather than the kind of like ad hoc teaching of an LLM that's just trying to get you what it thinks you want and make gloss over a lot of the stuff.
They're just radically different than what this tool can provide for us. And we're not really sure if it's going to do what we want it to do or not, if it's going to help us learn or not. And so for me, it's not that the AI can't do this, it's that it's too early for folks to use it effectively. And so my advice right now is don't incorporate it into your core learning process at the very beginning of your journey into tech. Once you learn the fundamentals, there are lots of things you can do with AI to accelerate your speed of development, to accelerate your learning. It's just too risky at the moment for beginners.
I feel like there's more use cases like that there where we could maybe point some of these people that are asking how to implement it into their day-to-days effectively. I feel like that's a good one that a lot of people just kind of overlook. Like there's options like that. So based on all three of your workflows, like where are you implementing AI into your day-to-day?
I will say that I'm leveraging AI quite a bit, actually. One, honestly, is tone recognition. I am pretty bad at sometimes reading a message and then realizing, is this tone actually what I'm perceiving? Or if I write a message, is this tone coming across in the way that I want? It saved me from many an argument. It saved me from adding in per my last email many a time. It's been really, really great in corporate levels of communication and keeping me the level that I needed to be at. But also it's been really great at allowing me to navigate tense situations in a way that my message still comes across, but it diffuses the situation in a meaningful way to where I'm not jeopardizing a relationship. I genuinely believe conversational AI, whether people recognize it or not, is like the next UI that is going to be big. Prime example, I literally just finished wrapping up a podcast episode for the Modern Web Podcast. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. Great podcast. And the guest on there talked about how he showed his mother and father from India how to actually use ChatGPT voice. And since then, they have not typed a single time, but the mother can sometimes be on there for 30 minutes talking about ideas and talking through things to get better understandings of things, which is phenomenal, right? Especially because she's not a tech-forward individual, according to the guest. So that right there just showcases, what if now we take this to another level where you are a scientist in a lab and you're mixing chemicals and you're doing all this and you need something to jot it down. Well, what if you could just say, hey, XYZ number of milliliters, read back to me what you logged. It reads it back. You're done. You can now ask further clarifying questions. There's so many levels you could take this to.
Leon, how about you?
At a fundamental, like core level day to day, it's things like whisper flow that enable me to not have to type with my fingers anymore. So things like whisper flow, where I'm talking my prompts, I'm responding to emails, completely changed the game for me because I don't have to type as much. That's the baseline running all day long. For my development, like if I'm building something, and specifically something new, a lot of my day is spent, all right, V0 to get the UI built out, using cursor and agents to kind of get all the code running and working. And then once it's all kind of there and I can see the bigger picture, I can see the roadmap, how I get all these pieces together, I know how everything I throw it out and I can do it myself. I love efficiency across my life. Anything that takes me a little bit of time every day or every week, done so. Game changer, efficiency off the charts.
Awesome. Well, Quincy, what do you got for us? And then I know we're at time here, so give us your closing thoughts as well once you give us your list.
I mean, pretty much everything Danny and Leon already said in terms of using tools. Like I'm not using everything that they said, but for me, mostly it's like doing research and learning. So I'll have lengthy conversations in like Japanese or Chinese with GPT and while I'm like walking home from the gym. And that's a great use case because I'm getting to learn about a topic, but I'm learning it in a foreign language. And it doesn't really matter how deep we go because it's really just a conversational opportunity.
Awesome. All right. Well, we have heard everybody's thoughts on the tools that they're using. I have to check out Whisperflow too. That sounds awesome. But anyway, I would love to give the floor to Leon for a couple closing thoughts. Like where do you see the best use or the best ways to learn or implement AI moving into 2026? Because it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon.
Anything that buys your time back is where AI is the best use right now. And that comes across any domain, no matter what you're doing. When it comes to learning, be careful. If you're early in your journey, it can be a detrimental tool. If you are later in your learning journey, please learn the fundamentals of how adults learn. If you do not know concepts about spaced repetition, active recall, chunking, if you do not know these things at a fundamental level, you won't know if AI is helping or hurting. And so if you want to incorporate AI into your learning, first ask it to teach you about learning theory That way you can make the good decisions around when to incorporate in your learning process. Dr. Barbara Oakley has a phenomenal course, Learning How to Learn. It's a good place to start. Tools like that, or even just asking AI to give you that idea, will be really beneficial. Please, if you're thinking about incorporating into your learning process, learn how adults learn first. That way you know when it's right or wrong or smart or wise to bring it into your process. And then using AI is good for whenever things come your way that you would normally not be able to invest the time in.
Ooh, what a way to end. I have no notes on that. I want to leave it with that. A lot of people, the fail, pivot, grow is really resonating with in the chat. So I hope that everybody was able to get something out of this, such valuable information. But this was awesome. So many great insights and opinions and great feedback. I think a lot of people really got some value out of this. So again, I thank our speakers, Quincy, Leon, Danny. It's always great to get you all together. And I guess you'll all be together in about a month.